people who show more gratitude are more happy. So maybe I should show a little bit of gratitude to make myself even happier this morning. So some things that I like more about Turkey than I do America. I like how like people, not so much of opposite genders, but people of the same gender, like touch each other. So in America, like it's very odd for some, like another faculty member to ever touch you, or for someone that you don't know to touch you. So I went to Ankara on Wednesday. I haven't gotten the exams back from Elif yet. I'm getting them today, so sorry about that. They'll be very short. But anyway, I had this ride with this taxi driver. I have no idea really who he is. I just met him for the first time. And we're talking, and he puts his hand on my lap. You know, he just puts it on my lap. And you know, and he pats me, and then he touches my shoulder. And like in America, this would be like really freaky. It'd be like, dude. But here, it's not. It's like showing I trust you. You know, I'm willing to be open and be your friend. And this is something that I really, really like about Turkey. And the way that men greet each other too. In America, it's just, you know, hi. Maybe really close friends will hug. But even then, it's like a... But in Turkey, it's much more intimate. Grab the hand, grab the shoulder, come in, touch it. This is a very intimate position, showing trust, and I really, really like this about Turkey. So it's funny. I actually do feel much better now that I mentioned that. So now that I feel happier and am prepared to teach better, let's talk about happiness. So, happiness, what is it? When people say that they're happy, it's a feeling, it's an emotion, right? So it's a mental state of well-being. It's a good feeling, characterized by positive emotions ranging from contentment to intense joy. So contentment, what's contentment? Yeah, you're like satisfied. Like some days the sun's out in the garden and I have my chai, I have my coffee, and I'm sitting there and I'm content. It's quiet, it's beautiful, I'm happy. I'm not like thrilled or anything, but I have this contented happiness, this rahatlı happiness. Whereas intense joy is, you know, woohoo, woohoo, something really amazing happened. People don't have to jump up and down. There's some pictures of my wedding day, and I was suffering from very intense joy. In all of the pictures that I have this grin on my face. I'm like I'm just so happy. I've never seen myself smile that big for so long before. This is really intense happiness. So the question, again, is what makes you happy? And we're not going to spend as much time on this as we did about other things. But what things make you happy? Come on, easy question. We don't have as many people, so you guys have to like fill in. Eating makes people happy.
Sleep.
Going out with friends.
Sleep.
Sleep. I love sleep. I only got about 3.5 hours last night. So, yeah, I'm happy when I get a lot of sleep. Probably everything that you love. When we had the class, we talked about the things that you love. Probably everything that you love is something that makes you happy. And plus other things that you might not say that you love, but that meet your needs anyway. So people say things like this a lot. If only blank, I would be happy. You know, how happy are you? Oh, I'm pretty happy. Do you think you'll be happier later? Yes. Why? Well, if this happens, I'll be happier. When that happens, I'll be happier. When I get married, I'll be happy. When I finish college, I'll be happy. When I'm done with Dr. Knapp's boring class, I'll be happy. Right? So people say stuff like this. They have $1 million, had a job, had a girlfriend, whatever. How much do these things really affect people's happiness? If I had $1 million, I'd be happy. 10%. 10%. Are you crazy? mean, if I gave you a million, forget about liras, because liras are cheap. Forget about euros, because euros are cheap too. Let's talk about pounds, British pounds. British pound is worth a heck of a lot of liras. Let's say I were going to give you £1 million. It's only going to affect your happiness 10%. So I'm like, I'm happy today. And you're like, oh, I have £1 million now. A little bit happier. Does that sound right? No, it doesn't sound right. How much happier would you be if you got £1 million? Do you think?
I can't really quantify it. But it should be an intense one. Intense happiness.
It'd be intense happiness. Are you intensely happy now?
No.
So if you went from just sort of moderately happy to intense happiness, that doesn't sound like it's a 10% change. It sounds like it's a really, really big change. Right? If I had €1 million, I would be ecstatic. I haven't been back to America in almost 2 years. Why? Because I can't afford to fly my whole family out there. If it was just me, it'd be no problem. But I have a wife and kids that want to go back too. So this means I haven't eaten at Palermo's Pizza, which makes me less happy. So if I had €1 million or pounds, I could go back to America. In fact, I could go back on the weekends and have Palermo's whenever I wanted. So if you look at people that get a lot of money, like lottery winners, right? People pay the lottery here, or play the lottery here, so they can win a lot of money. They don't seem 10% happier when I won. It's not like, I wonder if I win. Oh yeah, I guess I did. That's better. They're like, whoa! Ah, screw you, man! I quit my job. See you later. I'm buying my new house. I'm getting the car. They seem 1,000% happier. So this whole 10% idea really seems sort of odd. Similarly, forget about happiness for a minute. If we look on the other side and look at sadness. Imagine that Ada died. My little cute girl. So she died this morning. No, not really, but imagine. So I'm, up this morning, I'm having my coffee. I'm however happy I am. And then my wife comes in and she tells me, okay, Ada's dead. Do I say, no, I'm 10% less happy now. Okay. How much less happy am I? I don't know about 100% because I would still be somewhat happy, happy to be alive, happy to have my other kids, but I would really, really be devastated. It would be way, way more than 10%. I would be crying. I probably wouldn't be able to come to school today. It would really have a huge effect on me. So if we have things like lottery that make people go nuts crazy happy, and you have things like deaths in the family that make people go nuts crazy sad, where are we coming up with this 10% number? Yeah.
I think it's about the long term, the long run.
Yeah.
And because of the treadmill adaptation.
Yeah, the hedonic treadmill. That's exactly right. So 10% is over the long run. So if I got €1 million right now, I would be really happy. Because I'm not used to having that type of money. I'm not used to having the type of freedom that you can have with that much money. But after a couple months, I would be used to having that much money. Right? I would be used to having that type of freedom. So you get a big boost or drop immediately after there's some big change that decreases in magnitude over time. So here you are, you're happy like this, you win the lottery, and you don't go up 10%, you go up, woo, really high. But over time, you come back down to sort of where you were. Or similarly, something bad happens, but slowly you come back over time. So this is called hedonic adaptation. So what does it mean, hedonic? What does hedonism mean?
Based on pleasure.
It's based on pleasure. So hedonic is related to hedonism or pleasure. And hedonism is what? If someone is a hedonist,
Just before.
just what?
Live for.
Living for pleasure. That's a good definition. It's the idea that happiness or pleasure is the sole purpose or good in life. It's the idea of you should do things that feel good. do it, right? So let's apply that lottery ticket. Let's ask that guy out, but there's this treadmill. So homeostasis we've talked about before. Can someone refresh me what's homeostasis?
Keep balance.
It's like a balance between something, right? And a treadmill is sort of like homeostasis. So does everyone know what a treadmill is? So you're on a treadmill, and if it's on, if you want to stay in homeostasis, that means if you want to stay in the same place that you are, what do you need to do? You need to start running. Because if you don't run, you'll go backwards, right? So the idea is you're on this sort of treadmill of happiness. You're basically staying in the same place over the long time. So the idea is with the hedonic treadmill is before you have a certain amount of money, a certain amount of happiness for whatever reasons, and that's normal for you, right? If you only have, 20,000 liras a year that you're living with, that's normal for you. And you're happy with that, however happy you are. And then something changes. And you get a new job, or you win the lottery, and you get more money. Now think about it. Previously, the 20,000 liras was normal. But now, you don't have what's normal, you have way, way more, or way, way less, depending on which way you're talking about, right? So that's not normal. So when it's not normal, this means you're thrown out of homeostasis, right? Like with drugs, you take a drug, and you experience a not normal state. But just like with drugs, if you continue to take addictive drugs, your body will build up a tolerance to the drug. Your brain builds up a tolerance, or it adapts to your situations. So after a time, this higher amount of money is normal. It's nothing special anymore. It's your day-to-day life, and you don't appreciate it as much anymore. Do you guys remember when you would have birthdays when you were kids and you get like presents? When you get a present that you wanted, like how happy were you?
Of course.
You'd be really, really happy, right? You get the present that you wanted and you're like, this is great, I always wanted it. And kids, they play with their toys, I don't know, at least the kids that I'm thinking of, like you play for it a couple days and then you stop playing with it. Unless it's a really cool toy, then you might play for a longer time. But a lot of toys, like the idea of it's really sort of exciting. You don't have it, and then you get it, and it's not normal, right? You're not used to it, so it's very exciting for you. But you get used to it over time. You adapt to it. So in this situation, your overall money is increased 10 years from now, but your happiness really hasn't changed much overall. You had this slight bump up for a little while, but it came back down as that amount of money became normal to you. Unfortunately, hedonic adaptation is faster for positive life events. This means that people will, if they get a raise or get a job, they'll be very happy about this, but very quickly that will become normal for them. However, if they lose their job, it will take much, much longer for them to get back to normal. So that's kind of depressing, right? I mean, if you can get this bump in happiness, people like to be happy. I like to be happy. I would much rather be happy than sad. Is there anything that you can do to like keep that little bump of happiness longer than you would normally? Okay, maybe expectations. Can you give me something more specific?
You have to just improve it.
You have to remove it?
Improve it. So it's
So I got my money. Now I have to get more money. Actually, this is really interesting. There's a lot of people like talk about the people on Wall Street. Like, oh, they're so greedy, the 1%. They're not happy with, $5 million. They want $10 million. They're not happy with that. They want $1 billion, right? They're not happy with $1 billion. They want more money. And this sort of someone that might only be making 20 to 30,000 liras a year, right? Are you kidding me? If I had $1 million, I'd be cool. I don't need any more money than that. But what happens? You get that $1 million, and you're like, woo, riding high. But then the $1 million is like, it's nothing special anymore. So what do you need? Let's go up to $2 million. Okay, let's go up to $5 million. So the greed, I don't think it's really this thing like people are just like, give me money, give me money. They want to improve their happiness. Everyone wants to improve their happiness. And the problem is that over time their happiness adjusts. What can they do to slow down that adjustment process?
Maybe they should learn to appreciate what they have.
Learn to appreciate what they have. What is it called when you appreciate what you have? Gratitude. Thankfulness. So, think about thankfulness. If you're used to making 20, 30,000 liras a year, and then all of a sudden you get a new job and you're making 50,000 liras a year, this is a big deal, right, at first. But over time, this should adapt. How could gratitude help you to be happier for a longer period of time? To make this process more slow as opposed to, regular speed? How can gratitude help them? In America, we have a holiday devoted to gratitude. Thanksgiving Day. Spend one day being thankful.
Yeah, but that actually means that you have to be, or you have to have some kind of faith,
No, there are a lot of secular people that celebrate Thanksgiving.
Yeah, they celebrate it as a tradition, but not.
But they still show thanks. They might not thank God, but they're still thankful. Huh?
Can you elaborate a bit more?
So, just to be thankful, there doesn't necessarily have to be a higher power involved. So, like religious people on Thanksgiving, they will thank a higher power. They will say, thank you, God, for giving me my beautiful family, and for giving me this food, and for giving me a job, and for giving me whatever, right? But even if you are not thanking a God, you can still be thankful for your situation, right? Like, imagine that I was really, really hungry. So there's this this woman who sells flowers in my neighborhood, and she has this kid, and the kid often doesn't have good clothes. Lots of times she's barefoot. Lots of times she's dirty. She's really thin. She's, I think, 4.5. And she's smaller than my 3-year-old. So imagine that someone were to give them something, to leave a bag of clothes and a bag of food by their flowers. And they don't know who's done it. My wife is fairly good friends with them. So she occasionally brings them some food and gives them Ada's old clothes, which is convenient because Ada is a little bit bigger than her, so she can fit right in. So she expresses gratitude to us, right? Thank you. But if we weren't there, would she still be thankful? I mean, you have this stuff. You're just like, oh, there's stuff. Oh, what'd you do? I would still be thankful. Oh man, I really needed this. My daughter needed some new clothes. She isn't wearing shoes right now. We have some shoes now. Great. Oh, I'm so thankful. I don't know who I should be thankful to, but does that make sense? This is getting way more into the thankfulness that I want to, because there's a lot more about happiness. But the idea with thankfulness is when you are focusing on how good you have it, you're appreciating how good you have it. Right? So you can remember, I used to have it like this. But I have more than what I used to. I have more than just my health. I have a family. Oh wow, I have a family. Not everyone has a family. And you focus on the thing that has bumped you up originally, right? And by refocusing on this can help you maintain your happiness longer. Or similarly, if something bad happens, if your child dies, and you want to get back to your previous normal of happiness more quickly, what should you do? I mean, thankfulness is sort of focusing on the situation, in a good situation, right? I have it good. Do you want to focus on a situation in a bad situation? If Ada died, and every morning I woke up and I said, oh man, Ada died. Oh, she was so cute. What would she be doing today? Oh man, she's missing out on a wonderful life, and I'm missing my daughter. Would I become happier more quickly or less quickly? Less quickly, because I'm focusing on how crappy I have it now compared to how it was, right? So by focusing on this change, we can make that change stay not permanent, but more permanent. Does that make sense? So if something good happens, be thankful. And by being thankful for it, you will stay happier about your situation for much, much longer than if you're not thankful. Similarly, if you have a really bad experience, don't focus on all of the bad things. Be thankful about the good things that you still have. Be thankful for the good times that you did have. All right, so implications of the treadmill. This suggests that you shouldn't waste your money on the lotto ticket because your happiness isn't going to change that much over the long run. So don't sweat the small stuff. You lost your job? Yeah, it sucks, but it's okay. Your life isn't over. A lot of people, when a bad thing happens, they lose their job, they lose a spouse, they get really depressed, and some of them will even kill themselves, right? And they think, man, life is just so horrible and it will never get better. And the good news is that thanks to the hedonic treadmill, you come back to where you were over time. So this suggests that there's a set point for our happiness. Your happiness level is here. You can get pushed up or pushed down, but eventually it's going to get back to that level. So this is a homeostatic point. What determines this homeostatic point? So the events in your life situations, these are things that push it up or down, but what sets it?
Your gene.
Your genes, yeah. And how much do your genes contribute to your happiness? 50%. That's really, really depressing. Because if you have bad genes, you've got to find some way else. Thank goodness that it's not like 80 or 90%. Because even with 0% genes, if you have a good 10% situation and a good 40% of the other stuff, you can get to about average level of happiness. So genes, what are genes related to? Well, lots of things. Remember how we talked about oxytocin? How it helps build trust? So oxytocin is something that's produced. Your genes tell your body to make it. Serotonin is another molecule. It's the happy molecule, the happy neurotransmitter. And comparatively speaking, it's related to perceptions of reinforcing stimuli. So if I am hungry and I perceive the availability of something to eat, there's food. It's not just there that I can't get it, but I can get it. I see the locanda, I have money, I can get the food. Body releases serotonin. Presence of a mate. Serotonin is also released if you have a higher social rank. So kids that get bullied a lot have lower serotonin levels. So think about Maslow. When you have these sort of reinforcing things available, you're getting more serotonin. So some psychological effects of too little serotonin are things like anxiety, depression, aggression, and even suicide. So the depressing news is that genes account for 50% of people's happiness. If you have bad genes, that really sucks. But there's good news too. What's the good news? So the bad news is that 50% of it's genes. So the good news is that
You can still maintain 50%.
you can still potentially get up to 50%. I would argue that getting up to 50% if you have 0 for your genes is going to be basically impossible. It's not exactly additive like this. There's an interaction like most things in psychology. But it's like the situation, like I can't really be born into a rich family or a poor family or a happy community or a war-torn community. I don't get to decide that stuff. I can do some things, but a lot of my situation is set by luck. and by circumstance that I'm out of control. But the good news is that there's this other component, right? What's the final component? What accounts for 40% of people's happiness on average on the long run?
How we perceive our events.
How we perceive our events. So like being thankful for good stuff.
Gratitude.
No, it's like there's something on how you react. It's not like something you have.
Okay.
But there is something happening and how you react to that.
So like I get a job and I can be grateful versus not.
No, of course you have to be grateful. For
No.
that, but I mean, most people do. Like okay, let's say, I don't know exactly, but it's like there's an event, though. There's an action, there's an event, there's something.
There's something, yeah.
How you approach this thing.
There's something how you. Okay, I'm not gonna say no, but I need more. You said eating earlier makes you happy. Is that right? So, like, if eating makes you happy, then what do? She eats. She goes and eats. She control that? When she eats, where she eats, what she eats? To a large extent, she can. There's this restaurant that I love in Kenyon, I think. And Paula, I've only been there one time with my wife. I took her there for her birthday last year. It was so good, and I want to go back. But there are other places that have good food that I can buy, for like 6 or 7 liras instead of 30. Good grief. So we can do some things like that we like. We like eating. We can go to a restaurant that we like and experience happiness. Eating is actually hugely correlated with happiness. Lots of times, if you give people tests of how happy they are, okay, on a scale of 1 to 7, please indicate how happy you are. Before and after they eat, people are so much happier after they eat. So if you want to ask your parents for money, or if you want to ask your boss for a raise, have them over for dinner and have them eat some good food so they're happy and more likely to make a concession for you, because then hopefully they'll be releasing some oxytocin and make them more trusting and willing to bargain. Intentional activities, the things that you choose for yourself to do, accounts for 40% of people's happiness. So it's stuff that you have control over. You have control over whether or not you hang out with friends. So a lot of people, I see them outside of Cafe Crown, in a group of people. They're chatting, right? Does that make people happier? Who likes to sit in a group of friends and talk? Almost everyone. There are 2 people that don't like talking with friends. Exercising. Exercising makes some people happy. Not everyone. I really hate to exercise. Like, I feel good that I did it, but the actual act of exercising to me is just torture. Oh. That's the go back. Some people really enjoy participating in religious activities. I remember when I was a kid and my parents would force me to go to church, and you listen to the person talk, and you just be like, oh, shoot me. But other people really enjoy it, and actually as I got older, I started really enjoying going to church. I actually enjoyed it so much. My mom, she grounded me from going to church one time to punish me for doing, I forget what I did wrong, but she wouldn't let me go to church. I thought that was funny. Giving thanks. You have control over whether you give thanks or not. You can control whether or not you focus on the good things that you have in life. You can control your diet. So certain foods increase levels of serotonin. So on Thanksgiving Day, this is so cool. So on Thanksgiving Day, what do Americans eat? We eat turkey. And there's a chemical in turkey. You guys know what it is? Tryptophan. Tryptophan, which is an agonist for serotonin. So we're being thankful. We're thankful, so this is increasing our happiness. And then we eat turkey, which is an agonist for serotonin, which makes us even more happy. So if you don't like Hindi, you should, maybe try to like it a little bit more. You can choose what field you work in. This is really, really important. A lot of people, they come to college and they don't know what they want to do, and that's completely fine. And other people are in college, and they're trying to do what someone else has told them to do. Oh, you know, you need to be a lawyer. We're lawyers in our family. Do this. And being a lawyer is great if that makes you happy. But if it's not something that makes you happy, get out of it. If being a psychology major doesn't make you happy, find something else. I mean, as a psychologist, I hope you're all very happy being a psychology major. But if you really want to be happy over the long run, do things that make you happy. So happiness is much more about who you are and what you do than the things that you have. And that's pretty good news. You don't have a lot of control over what you have necessarily. You don't maybe have a lot of control over who you are, but you do have a lot of control over what you do. So happiness, what things are correlated with happiness? Happier people are healthier. Why? They live longer. Why? Why would they be happier or be healthier and live longer?
Less stress.
Less stress, which means what?
Less cortisol.
Less cortisol, which means what?
High immune system.
Better immune system. That's exactly right. Good for you. So happy people are healthier. Happy people have a longer life. There was this article that I sent you to. And I said something about like, you know, I don't really like this article. Why didn't I like that article?
There is no control group. They say just like it will increase your life by 5 years. How do you know? How do you know that that person he will die?
So one thing they did is they didn't really provide evidence for all their claims. So they said happiness will make you live longer, but they didn't show any studies that demonstrated it. And that's a problem, but that's not really my biggest problem. In an introductory psychology class, there are lots of things that I say that I don't provide a ton of evidence for. So I said, you know, if you're happier, you're healthier. But I haven't talked about the studies that have shown us, right? So what should you do? Should you just take my word for it? You should. If you are interested in this or other things that I say when I don't talk about a particular study, you should look into it. You should look into the research and see if there actually is it. So I don't have a huge problem with her saying that, you know, being happy leads to a longer life. Because if you go into the literature, then you can find studies that demonstrate this. Not experimental studies, because it's hard to really experimentally manipulate someone's happiness over the long run. We can manipulate people's happiness over the short run very easily, but over the long run, this would be a very difficult and probably very unethical thing to do. Yeah.
But the way they put it, they did not say correlation. They didn't mention something about correlation. They mentioned something like causation. I remember I read 5 years. They put that number like 5 years. This is something that I don't think a scientist would do.
Okay, so maybe they didn't say correlates. Maybe they used the word cause or something that I would be more hesitant about using. But that's not the biggest problem I have with the article either. Who wrote the article? What was the article about? Was it just about happiness, or was there something else about it too? Did it talk about life coaching? How many of you guys actually read it? I know one person did. Did anyone else read it? So 3 of you read it. Well, okay, then I'll explain what the deal was. So this woman starts writing, and she says that happiness is a great thing. It makes people healthier, it makes people have a longer life, and this I'm fine with. But then she goes on and she starts talking about life coaching and how life coaching can make people happier, and that, you know, there's this interview with this particular life coach who's saying all this stuff. And the interview with the life coach is the person that's writing the paper. It's an advertisement for her business. I have a huge problem with that. I mean, as a business person, you want people to buy your product, right? So if I say, you know, happiness leads to a longer life and I can make you happier, come by me, or come by this person, but I'm not really telling you overtly that it's me, I'm like, sort of being dishonest about what's going on. So I had a huge problem with that article, but I sent you then another article from an academic journal that backs up this idea as well. Happy people are more productive. They get more done at work. I tend to teach better when I'm happier. It's interesting. One of the reasons that I teach is because it makes me happy. And lots of times, if I have a bad morning, after I have taught, I feel so much better. It's really amazing because this is actually one of the reasons that I try to have my classes in the morning, because teaching gets me off to a good start. I can be having a bad morning and then I teach, and by interacting with you guys, it makes me happier and the rest of my day goes better. You know, this is really important for business, right? If you get into human resources, you want your employees to be happy so they will produce more for you. So how do you make employees happier? Think about the things that we've talked about. What things influence happiness? Well, we can give them more money, right? That'll make people happier. How long? Yeah, if we give them more money. Well, I want my employees to be happier. You know, our productivity is here, and I want our productivity to be here. So if I can make our employees happier, maybe that will help us increase our productivity, right? So what can I do? I'll give everyone a raise. Everyone, you're getting a 10% raise now. All of you guys, you're going to get 10% more on your meal card, so you can buy more stuff and put the call upstairs. Right? You're happier. How long is that going to last? Until adaptation. So it's not going to be something that lasts necessarily a long time because of this hedonic adaptation process. But something else that we can do is we can give employees more control over their lives and their schedules. This is actually one of the reasons that I chose academia. So people that teach college often make less than people in the same field that are working professional outside of the college. Right? So if I was working as a psychologist for Microsoft or for UCAM, I would be making more money than I am here. So why am I working here? Am I crazy? Maybe I'm just not good enough. You know, I had to settle for Istanbul Shahir University. That's possible. Is there anything else?
Freedom.
Freedom. I have a ton of freedom. I have to be here Monday, Wednesday, Friday for an hour to teach you guys. Tuesday, Thursday for an hour and a half to teach some other people. I have to be here a couple hours for office hours. After that, I'm free. I'm free. I can research what I want. I can spend time doing things that I want. This gives me a lot of control. It gives me a lot of opportunities to do activities, to intentionally do activities that I enjoy, right? And by having more control, this makes people happier. So in some jobs, maybe we can't give them control like, okay, you can just do whatever you want now, but we can give them control over other things. When they take vacations, when they come into work. So some jobs, like they start at 9 in the morning and they end at 5, and you work at that time and that's it. But other jobs have started changing because they realize that some people like working in the morning more, and some people like working in the evening more. So they say, okay, you have to work 8 hours in a day to keep your job. But we don't care if you come in at 6 and work until, you know, your 8 hours are up. Or if you come in at 11 and work until 7. Right? As long as you're doing it, this gives people more control and increases people's happiness and productivity. Time flies when people are happy and having fun. When you're having fun, often you're really focused on the task. So I have a problem sometimes because I have fun. Not every day in class, but on a lot of class days I have fun while I teach, and I lose track of the time. Why? Because the task is demanding. I have to pay attention to what I'm doing. I'm in the moment. I'm paying attention to the ideas. I'm not paying attention to the time. Lots of times when you're having fun, you're performing the task well. You're highly efficient, you're highly creative. It's funny because some days, like when I don't have fun in class, I feel like, you know, the class was really bad. I wasn't able to communicate well, I wasn't creative, but on a day that I really enjoyed class, I often feel like I was very efficient and creative. So this is called flow. Flow with the force. I flow when I solve problems. This is why I'm a scientist. I flow when I help others solve problems. This is one of the reasons why I chose to be a science teacher. The big question for you guys is, when do you flow? If you find things that you flow, where you're good at it and it's involving you and you're happy and you lose track of time. See if you can do something like that professionally. Because there are often ways to make money out of the things that you do when you're flowing. Let's stop here. See you guys on... We don't have class next week, right?
Yes.
Yes. We don't have.
Wow. So this means we have more opportunities to do intentional activities. So should we be happier or less happy next week?
Happier.
See you guys later.